The conference room at NASA's Johnson Space Center went silent on June 17, 2013, when Dr. Rebecca Chen pulled up submission number 1847 on the projection screen. The Asteroid Redirect Mission, a $2.6 billion project to capture a near-Earth asteroid and bring it into lunar orbit, had been delayed for 7 months because of a single unsolved problem. The spacecraft's propulsion system couldn't generate enough thrust to move the captured asteroid without destabilizing its own trajectory. Engineers had tried 23 different solutions. All had failed. The mission was hemorrhaging money and approaching cancellation. NASA had done something unusual in their desperation. They'd posted the problem publicly on their open innovation platform, offering $15,000 to anyone who could solve it. Over 3,000 submissions had come in from aerospace engineers, physicists, and amateur enthusiasts worldwide. Dr. Chen had spent 3 weeks reviewing them all. Most were variations on failed approaches. Some were physics fantasy. But submission 1847 was different. It proposed a solution so elegant, so counterintuitively simple that Dr. Chen had initially assumed it was a joke. Then she ran the calculations. The solution worked perfectly. She checked the submitter information. Jordan Blake, age 19, enrolled at Pasadena City College, California. No aerospace degree, no engineering credentials, just a community college student taking night classes. Dr. Chen felt goosebumps rise on her arms. Within 72 hours, 3 independent teams would verify Jordan's solution. Within 2 weeks, the asteroid redirect mission would be back on schedule. Within 6 weeks, Lockheed Martin, the primary contractor for the mission, would claim ownership of Jordan's solution and threaten legal action if Jordan discussed it publicly. Within 4 months, Jordan Blake would be working at a target in suburban Los Angeles, their security clearance revoked, their name removed from every NASA document, legally barred from ever working in aerospace. What happened in that conference room didn't just save a space mission. It revealed how government contractors exploit young talent, steal their innovations, and destroy their futures to protect billion-dollar contracts built on incompetence. June 2013 was graduation season in Pasadena, but Jordan Blake wasn't celebrating. They were sitting in their mother's one-bedroom apartment, staring at a laptop balanced on a thrift store desk, trying to solve a problem that NASA's best engineers couldn't crack. Jordan's mother, Teresa Blake, worked as a medical billing clerk at a clinic in East LA, pulling down $32,000 a year while raising Jordan alone after their father left when Jordan was 8. Money was always tight. Jordan had graduated high school in 2012 with a 4 GPA and SAT scores that should have opened doors to MIT or Caltech. But those schools cost $60,000 a year, and even with financial aid, the gap was insurmountable. So Jordan enrolled at Pasadena City College, taking engineering courses at $46 per unit while working weekend shifts at a grocery store. The dream was to transfer to a UC school eventually, maybe get hired by SpaceX or NASA, join the new space race that was lighting up the news. According to Jordan's physics professor, Dr. Raymond Santos, Jordan was the most naturally gifted student he'd taught in 20 years. They'd look at a problem, Dr. Santos recalled in an interview, and see solutions that textbooks hadn't considered. Not because they knew more than the textbooks, but because they weren't constrained by conventional approaches. They thought sideways. In May 2013, Jordan discovered NASA's Open Innovation Portal. The space agency had started crowdsourcing technical problems, posting challenges that internal teams were struggling with and offering cash prizes for solutions. Jordan saw it as a chance, not for the money, though $15,000 would change their life, but for a shot at being noticed, at proving they belonged in aerospace despite not having the right pedigree. The asteroid redirect mission problem was posted on May 20th. Jordan read the technical specifications, the constraints, the failed approaches that NASA listed to avoid redundant submissions. The problem was complex. You needed to push a 500-ton asteroid using a spacecraft with limited fuel, but every thrust vector that moved the asteroid also pushed the spacecraft itself, creating instability. Previous solutions tried to compensate with complex gyroscopic systems or additional propulsion units, all adding weight and cost. Jordan looked at the problem and saw that everyone was thinking about it wrong. They weren't trying to move the asteroid. They were trying to move a spacecraft asteroid system, treating them as separate objects fighting each other. What if you stopped fighting? Jordan spent 2 weeks developing a solution that involved tethering the spacecraft to the asteroid with a rotating cable system that used the asteroid's own mass as a counterweight. By rotating the tether system and using carefully timed short thrust bursts, you could move the combined system without destabilizing either component. The spacecraft and asteroid would move as a single rotating unit, like a hammer thrower spinning before release, except the release never came. You just kept spinning and thrusting, gradually adjusting velocity and trajectory. The math was complex, requiring precise timing and orbital mechanics calculations, but the principle was simple. Use rotation to convert instability into controlled motion. Jordan coded a simulation in Python, using free orbital mechanics libraries, and ran it 500 times with different variables. Every simulation showed the same result. It worked, and it worked better than any solution NASA had attempted. On June 10th, Jordan submitted the solution with a 12-page technical document and simulation code. The submission was anonymous, identified only by number. Jordan went back to work at the grocery store and tried not to hope too hard. On June 18th, Jordan received an email from NASA. Dr. Rebecca Chen wanted to schedule a video call to discuss submission 1847. Jordan's hands shook so badly they could barely type a response. The video call happened on June 20th. Dr. Chen appeared on screen with 2 other engineers, all looking at Jordan with expressions Jordan couldn't quite read. Excitement, disbelief. Verified your solution, Dr. Chen said without preamble. We've run it through our simulation systems, had 3 teams check the math independently. It works. It's brilliant. Where did you study orbital mechanics? YouTube mostly, Jordan said, and a textbook I found at the library, Introduction to Astrodynamics. One of the other engineers laughed, not unkindly. You solved a problem our team of PhDs couldn't crack using a 40-year-old textbook and YouTube. I guess I didn't know it was supposed to be impossible, so I just tried things. Dr. Chen smiled. That's often how the best solutions happen. Jordan, we want to implement your solution. The asteroid redirect mission is critical to NASA's deep space exploration program. Your work will save the project. We'll need you to sign some paperwork, transfer the intellectual property rights per the challenge terms, and we'd like to offer you an internship at JPL for the fall. Would you be interested? Jordan felt like they were floating. Yes, absolutely yes. On June 25th, Jordan signed the paperwork. The terms of service for NASA's Open Innovation Platform stated that by submitting a solution, the submitter granted NASA and its contractors a royalty-free license to use the intellectual property. Jordan signed without reading closely. The prize money, $15,000, arrived on July 1st. Jordan gave half to their mother to cover rent she'd been struggling with. The rest went into savings for textbooks and transfer application fees. On July 8th, Jordan started an internship at NASA's Jet Propulsion Laboratory in Pasadena, working with the team implementing the asteroid redirect mission solution. Jordan's rotation system was being translated into engineering specifications, tested in vacuum chambers, prepared for integration into the spacecraft design. Jordan sat in meetings with engineers who had decades of experience, contributing ideas, refining calculations. For the first time in their life, Jordan felt like they were where they belonged. On July 15th, everything changed. Gregory Thornton, Vice President of Space Systems at Lockheed Martin, the primary contractor for the asteroid redirect mission, called an emergency meeting with NASA's mission directors. Lockheed Martin had a $1.8 billion contract to design and build the spacecraft. That contract included $240 million specifically allocated to solving the propulsion stabilization problem. Thornton's team had been working on that problem for 18 months, billing NASA for hundreds of thousands of hours of engineering time. They had proposed 3 different solutions, all expensive, all requiring additional hardware. NASA had rejected all 3 as over budget. Now, a community college student had solved it in 2 weeks with an approach that required minimal hardware and could be implemented for under $10 million. This was a disaster for Lockheed Martin, not just because they'd wasted 18 months, but because Jordan's solution exposed that the problem had never required the complex, expensive approaches Lockheed had been pushing. It made them look incompetent or, worse, like they'd been inflating costs deliberately. Thornton explained the situation to NASA leadership bluntly. This student solution, while clever, was developed using information from our proprietary research. The NASA challenge posted technical specifications that included data derived from Lockheed's contracted work. By using that data to develop a solution, the student has created a derivative work that infringes on our intellectual property. That's absurd, Dr. Chen said. The solution is fundamentally different from anything your team proposed. The underlying principles are derived from problem space we defined. Our legal team has reviewed this. If NASA implements this solution without proper licensing through Lockheed Martin, we'll be forced to pursue legal remedies. What Thornton didn't say, but everyone understood, was that Lockheed Martin had leverage. They were the prime contractor. They held patents on dozens of critical spacecraft components. If they wanted to delay the mission with legal challenges, they could do it easily. NASA's administrator, Charles Bolden, made a calculation. Fight Lockheed Martin and risk delaying the mission for years in court, or make a deal. On July 18th, NASA reached an agreement with Lockheed Martin. Jordan's solution would be implemented, but it would be credited to the Lockheed Martin engineering team in collaboration with NASA JPL. Jordan's name would not appear in any public documentation. In exchange, Lockheed Martin would reduce their contract change order fees and expedite the implementation timeline. Dr. Chen called Jordan into her office to explain the situation. "I'm so sorry. This isn't right, but it's the reality of how these contracts work. You'll still receive your prize money. You'll still have this internship, but we can't credit you publicly." Jordan felt the room tilt. "They're stealing my solution. They're claiming ownership based on contract technicalities. I've fought as hard as I can, but I don't have the power to change this. What if I go public, tell people what happened?" Dr. Chen's expression turned pained. "The work is now classified as international traffic in arms regulations controlled. That means it's export-controlled technology. If you discuss it publicly without authorization, you could face federal charges." Jordan understood. They'd been silenced by law. Jordan tried to stay focused on the internship, but the environment had changed. Other engineers looked at them differently, some with sympathy, others with resentment. On August 2nd, Jordan was called into a meeting with JPL's security office. They were informed that their interim security clearance was under review due to irregularities in background check procedures. When Jordan asked what irregularities, they were told the information was confidential. Without a security clearance, Jordan couldn't access most of JPL's facilities or participate in classified meetings. The internship became meaningless, sitting in a cubicle doing data entry tasks that didn't require clearance. On August 14th, Jordan's security clearance was formally denied. The reason given was associations that present potential security concerns. No further details were provided, and there was no appeal process. Without clearance, the internship was terminated. On August 20th, Jordan received a letter from Lockheed Martin's legal department. It stated that any future employment in the aerospace industry would require Jordan to sign a comprehensive non-disclosure agreement regarding proprietary methodologies developed during their association with NASA-contracted projects. The letter made clear that refusing to sign would result in legal action alleging theft of trade secrets. Jordan showed the letter to a lawyer who offered a free consultation. The lawyer read it and shook his head. This is designed to make you untouchable in the industry. Any company that hires you risks a lawsuit from Lockheed Martin. You're being blacklisted for solving a problem they couldn't solve, for making them look bad. They've invested hundreds of millions in their reputation as aerospace leaders. You're a threat to that brand. Jordan tried to find aerospace work anyway. They applied to SpaceX, Boeing, Northrop Grumman, every company they could find. Every application was rejected without interview. On September 12th, Teresa received a call at her work. Her supervisor informed her that there had been complaints about inappropriate access to patient billing records. An investigation was being opened. Teresa had worked at the clinic for 8 years with a perfect record. The timing was not coincidental. She was being pressured, and the message was clear. If Jordan kept fighting, Teresa would lose her job. On September 18th, Jordan withdrew their transfer applications to UC schools. They couldn't afford to continue fighting. They needed work, any work, to help their mother. In October 2013, Jordan took a job at Target stocking shelves at night for $11.50 an hour. On December 4th, 2013, NASA announced that the asteroid redirect mission was back on schedule thanks to breakthrough engineering by the Lockheed Martin team. Gregory Thornton appeared in a press conference, explaining the innovative rotating tether propulsion system his team had developed. Jordan watched the press conference on a break room television at Target, surrounded by coworkers talking about their holiday shopping plans. Nobody knew that the system Thornton was describing, down to specific calculations, was Jordan's solution, word for word. On March 15, 2014, Lockheed Martin was awarded a contract modification worth an additional $180 million for their innovative problem-solving on the asteroid redirect mission. Gregory Thornton received a promotion to executive vice president. Jordan Blake filed for bankruptcy in April 2014, unable to pay back student loans for community college courses they could no longer afford to continue. What happened to Jordan after 2014 is a matter of public record. They worked retail jobs, moved between apartments as rent increased, never finished their degree. As of 2023, Jordan works at a warehouse in Riverside, California. They never worked in aerospace again. What happened to their solution is public too. The asteroid redirect mission was ultimately canceled in 2017 due to budget cuts, but Jordan's rotating tether propulsion concept was adapted for other missions. In 2019, a NASA deep space probe used a modified version to adjust its trajectory. The mission documentation credited the system to Lockheed Martin Advanced Propulsion Research Team, 2013. Jordan's name appears nowhere. Jordan's case was not isolated. In 2006, a graduate student named Eric Liu submitted a solution to a NASA challenge on radiation shielding. His solution was implemented without credit, and he was later sued by the contractor for discussing his own work publicly. Eric Liu left aerospace and now works in insurance. In 2010, a community college student named Maria Torres solved a NASA trajectory optimization problem. Her solution saved a Mars mission. She was offered an internship that was rescinded when her background check revealed her parents were undocumented immigrants. Maria never worked in aerospace. She's now a restaurant manager. In 2016, a high school student named Darius Washington created an algorithm for satellite collision avoidance. NASA used it. A defense contractor claimed ownership. Darius was blacklisted from every aerospace program he applied to. He's now a web developer. These cases span years and missions. Young people, often from non-privileged backgrounds, solving problems that experts couldn't, only to have their work stolen by contractors who then blacklist them from the industry. This wasn't a series of unfortunate misunderstandings. This was strategy. In 2020, leaked internal documents from a defense contractor showed a policy for handling external innovation contributions. The policy stated that solutions from non-employees should be acquired through challenge terms, credited internally, and contributors should be prevented from competing directly through strategic legal discouragement. They had a system for stealing from young innovators, and ensuring those innovators never became competition. Why was Jordan so dangerous? Because their existence proved that billion-dollar aerospace contracts weren't necessary for innovation. If a 19-year-old at community college could solve problems that Lockheed Martin's $240 million engineering team couldn't, it raised a terrible question. What were taxpayers actually paying for? The answer was expensive institutional incompetence. Defense contractors make money by billing for complexity, by turning straightforward problems into multi-year, multi-million-dollar engineering projects. They hire armies of credentialed engineers not necessarily to solve problems efficiently, but to justify enormous costs. Jordan's simple, elegant solution threatened that model. If NASA and the public realized that open challenges to bright young people could produce better results than $100 million contracts, the entire defense contractor gravy train would be at risk. So Jordan had to be eliminated, not just from the mission credit, but from the industry entirely. The message had to be clear. If you're young, if you're talented, if you threaten our business model, we will destroy your future. That's not paranoia. That's documented policy. You might think this is about one student and one mission. It's not. It's about an entire industry built on exploiting taxpayer money while suppressing innovation that threatens profits. In 2021, NASA's Inspector General found that the agency had paid contractors $4.1 billion for work that was redundant, overpriced, or unnecessary. Meanwhile, open innovation challenges had produced better solutions at 1% of the cost. In 2022, a report showed that 70% of solutions from NASA's public challenges were implemented without crediting the contributors, with credit going instead to the contractors who integrated the work. Right now, there are young people solving problems that could advance space exploration, improve satellite technology, make missions safer and cheaper. But they won't be rewarded. Their solutions will be stolen by contractors who will bill NASA millions to implement work they didn't create. And if those young people complain, they'll be blacklisted, just like Jordan. In 2013, a 19-year-old community college student solved a problem that was delaying a $2.6 billion space mission. Their solution was brilliant, elegant, and effective. A defense contractor stole it, took credit, received $180 million in additional funding, and made sure the student never worked in aerospace again. Jordan Blake saved a NASA mission and was rewarded with theft, blacklisting, and a career stocking shelves at Target. Today, you didn't just watch a video. You witnessed how your tax dollars fund corporate theft. Jordan was 19 years old when Lockheed Martin decided their innovation was too valuable to let them keep it. They stole Jordan's work, silenced them with national security laws, and destroyed their aerospace career before it began. You now know what they tried to hide. A working-class student solved what expert engineers couldn't, exposing that billion-dollar contracts were paying for incompetence. If this makes you furious, if this makes you want to demand accountability, then act. Hit the like button, because every like is evidence of what happened to Jordan. Every share is a challenge to the defense contractors who profit from stolen innovation. Write in the comments, Jordan solved it. 3 words that credit the real engineer. Because Jordan's contribution was stolen once. We won't let them be erased. Subscribe, because Jordan is not the only one. There are other stories of young innovators crushed by defense contractors, other solutions stolen and rebranded, other brilliant minds working retail because they threatened the wrong corporation. I'm exposing them all. We cannot give Jordan back the aerospace career they deserved. We cannot undo the decade they've spent surviving instead of thriving, but we can refuse to let their story be buried. We can say their name. Jordan Blake, age 19, who saved a NASA mission and was destroyed for it. They wanted you to think Lockheed Martin's engineers were geniuses. Now you know the truth. A teenager solved what they couldn't. Share this story. Make people question where their tax dollars go. Make them demand that young innovators be credited and protected. Would you have fought for Jordan in 2013? You can't change that. But you can fight for the next Jordan, working right now on the next breakthrough. Will you let them be exploited, or will you demand change?